Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger bringing you Keto Without the Crazy. Before we get into the topic, remember always check out the links below. We're going to be doing the Keto Made Simple Masterclass again soon. I think we're running it beginning of April. So get on the wait list because it's not available for purchase yet, but if you sign up for the wait list, you will be notified as soon as it's available and you don't want to miss it. Long story short, we've had 5 rounds of Keto Made Simple, or KMS as we call it. This is round 6 coming up. The results people have gotten have kind of blown me away. Blown me away. And I'll just leave it at that. We also have a brand new course coming up on sugar and food addiction. Very important topic that is kind of a black hole and a big silent gaping chasm in the low carb and keto world. So we are very happy to finally be bringing some resources about sugar and food addiction to our followers. All right, on to the topic. Is keto restrictive? Is keto restrictive? You have probably no doubt heard somebody say that. A family member, a friend, a well-meaning person you went to kindergarten with who left a comment on your Facebook page when you said you were starting keto, someone you haven't seen in 47 years wants to chime in about your restrictive new diet. Or you might have even said that yourself sometime in the past. A couple of years ago, a couple months ago, before you found keto, maybe you thought even to yourself, I could never do such a restrictive diet. That's so restrictive. I could never give up my bread, my pasta, my rice, my potatoes, my fruit. I could never do such a restrictive diet. And here you are doing it and thriving, or hoping to thrive soon. So, and I see my camera keeps going in and out of focus. As you can see, I decided to record from the famous red couch today, and I'm going to have to maybe play with the camera settings because I see that it's going in and out of focus. Anyway, I have a teeny tiny bit of notes. There's 2 main angles that I want to take this topic in, and no preference as to which one I start with. So I'll start with, is it restrictive? How come nobody ever says that about any other kind of diet? If you say that you're gonna try veganism, like you're just gonna go vegan, did anyone ever say, oh, that's so restrictive? It's so restrictive. You can't have any meat. You can't have any eggs. You can't have any seafood, any shellfish. You can't have any beef, pork, lamb, poultry, whatever, alligator meat, crocodile meat, rabbit meat, antelope, venison. No one ever says that's so restrictive. Every diet that has a name or a label typically leaves something out. Like it typically includes certain foods and excludes other foods. If you tell somebody that you're going to go on a low-fat diet, did anyone ever say, oh, that's so restrictive. You can't have anything that's high in fat. You can't have avocados. You can't have bacon. You can't have a ribeye steak. No one ever uses that restrictive bullcrap label for any other diet. Heaven forbid you decide to quit eating sugar and starch and all of a sudden you're so restricted. How could you possibly adhere to that restrictive diet? The anointed little halo wearing Mediterranean diet, which is a nonsensical phrase to begin with because the Mediterranean is pretty big and they eat a lot of different things there, but that is neither here nor there. If you tell someone I eat a Mediterranean diet or I'm following a Mediterranean diet, did anyone ever say that's so restrictive? You can only eat foods that are native to the Mediterranean area. I guess you don't have coconut oil, you don't eat anything that doesn't grow or isn't raised in the Mediterranean, any kind of fish, seafood that is not native to the Mediterranean Sea. Oh, that's so restrictive. That's so restrictive. No. Why? Why do they say it with keto? And so that has always struck me as interesting, that you could name any other diet Even vegetarianism, not even full on vegan, and no one will say, oh, that's so restrictive. You can't eat animal flesh. The only animal foods you can really eat are like eggs and dairy. Oh, it's so how can you do such a restrictive diet? Why is keto like the whipping boy of everybody's health opinion? You know, there's a saying about opinions. Opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one, and most of them stink. You heard it here. Okay, second direction I wanted to take this conversation in is keto restrictive or is it freeing? Is it liberating? This is where the rubber really hits the road when people say keto is restrictive. Let me tell you some other things that are restrictive, and then we'll see how restrictive keto seems in comparison. I think being on dialysis because my kidneys are failing from long-term diabetes, I think that's pretty restrictive, having to go for dialysis 3 or 4 times a week. I think being blind from retinopathy, from damaged eyes, from type 2 diabetes, that's pretty restrictive. I mean, okay, not that blind people don't live full, beautiful, complete lives. They do, but if you lose your sight because of type 2 diabetes, I think it's pretty restrictive to have heartburn to the point that you go to the hospital because you think you might be having a heart attack. I have a very dear friend who this happened to her years and years ago. She had acid reflux so bad, she actually took herself to the hospital. She thought she was like having a cardiac event. That's pretty restrictive, that kind of heartburn. Joint pain, migraines. If you would like to conceive a child, but you have PCOS, and so your cycles are not regular, and it's kind of like maybe you are experiencing infertility, that's pretty, you're restricted from conceiving a child naturally. That's pretty restrictive, you know? Being on like 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 medications every day is pretty restrictive. Having to carry around that pill box with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, and the people have like 4 or 5 of them so they can divvy them out a month at a time. Maybe that's not restrictive, but it's not all that fun, is it? You know, what's restrictive is impaired mobility because of your size or your chronic pain or your fatigue, that you cannot participate in activities that you would really like to participate in. Whether it's just yourself going by yourself for a walk, or whether it's participating in activities with your family, with your loved ones and friends, just going out, going for a hike, going to a park, tossing around a ball. If you would love to travel and you can't because of your impaired mobility or pain or fatigue or whatever, and I did it, my previous video, if I air these in order, was I did one on can I do keto if I have X condition, and I was very clear that not all medical problems are caused by our diet, right? I mean, that's a little, the keto zealots like to make it seem like if you are sick in any way, it's your fault, you caused it because you ate garbage. No, I am not one of those. I hope all of you watching know. So I'm not like, if you have fatigue, if you have chronic pain, I'm not saying it's 100% your diet or your diet at all. But if you know it is, if you happen to know that it is, then what's more restrictive? Giving up sugar and starch, having bacon and eggs for breakfast instead of cereal and toast. Is that restrictive, or is being hooked up to that dialysis machine more restrictive? I mean, keto is restrictive. You are restricting carbohydrate, or the vast majority of carbohydrate. We are deliberately limiting our carbohydrate intake. But people on a low-fat diet deliberately limit intake of very high-fat items. People on a vegan diet deliberately limit all animal food products. People on a vegetarian diet might exclude all animal flesh, all animal foods that required an animal to die for them to eat. Every diet is restrictive in some way. But so it is keto restrictive, yes, but is it less restrictive than dealing with your 86 medical problems is it, and here's another freeing. I said, like, is it restrictive or is it actually liberating and freeing? I mentioned that we have a course coming up on sugar and food addiction. For many people, not all, certainly not all, but many people find that when they go on a ketogenic diet, especially the way that we teach it in our Keto Made Simple Masterclass, or pro tip, if you don't want to do the masterclass, the Keto Made Simple Masterclass is pretty much the exact same thing as the phase 1 food list and the phase 1 approach in my book, End Your Carb Confusion, that I wrote with Dr. Westman. It's also, the food list is the same as Dr. Westman's famous page 4 diet. There's a link to page 4 in like every video I do down the notes. So that's, if you do keto the way that Dr. Westman has validated it in his clinic for over 20 years, a lot of people find that the sugar cravings go away, that the binging stops, or is maybe much, much reduced. You know, they may binge less frequently, and the quantity or the kinds of food they're eating is radically, you know, better, for lack of a better word, no pun intended. Freedom from having to eat every 4 minutes. Is keto restrictive, or does it liberate you from thinking about your meal 30 minutes after you had a meal before? I remember that, like, I've been doing keto for a long time, but not so long that I don't remember having cereal and toast for breakfast and then an hour later being ravenous. And it honestly never occurred to me until like now that I know what I know now, it never occurred to me back then to say, I just ate. Like, why am I so hungry? Was that not enough to keep me satiated for like 2 or 3 hours? Like, I just ate. Why am I, like, I'm ready to eat my own hand right now. Why? So keto, by restricting the carbohydrate, you free yourself of that constant hunger. The hunger, the hanger, the hungry plus angry, you know, it is a joy to be able to go hours and hours and hours without eating, without even thinking about food. I can eat and then go about my day, and maybe I'll eat later again, maybe I won't, you know. I sometimes, if I spend a few days with friends or family that do not eat keto, it's really interesting to see how often they feel the need to eat. Constantly stopping to snack, you know, having to make sure they've got something with them, like a granola bar or something, in case they get a little snack attack or low blood sugar. It's so foreign to me now. I'm just cruising along on my own body fat, thank you very much. You know, thank you so much, bagel I ate 40 years ago. I'll just eat you today for lunch. Did I just squeeze my bat wings in front of all of YouTube? Yes, I did. You know why? Because none of us is perfect. I'm a keto person, and I could stand to lose like 10 or 15 pounds easily. Anyway, okay. What was I saying? The freedom. Yes, keto is restrictive, but because you restrict carbohydrates to whatever extent you personally need to restrict them, some of us need to be stricter than others, by restricting certain foods, you are freeing yourself. Maybe you're freeing yourself of type 2 diabetes. People literally reverse, I mean, depending on how you define it, like in medical papers, they define it with certain criteria. The point is you're off all your meds and your A1C is normal, your fasting glucose is normal, everything's normal. You can reverse, you can liberate, be free of type 2 diabetes, PCOS, non-alcoholic fatty liver, the reflux, all the stuff I've already talked about. But that's a trade-off. And I think I talked about this in that previous video too. Is keto good for blank? You might not be willing to make that trade-off. You might know that your headaches go away, or your joint pain goes away, or you don't have, maybe your anxiety gets better. All kinds of good things happen when you eat keto, but you don't want to. You don't, damn it, you want your carbs. And guess what? That is a legitimate choice for you to make as an autonomous adult. You get to decide what you want to do. You get to decide how you want to be restricted. Because make no mistake, and I can't believe it took me 15 minutes to get to this point. This is what happens when I only have like 2 sentences worth of notes. You will be restricted in some way, no matter what you do. Whether you eat keto or you don't, you'll be restricted. If you eat keto, your carbohydrate intake is restricted. If you don't eat keto or low carb or paleo or Ken Berry's proper human diet, you might be restricted because of gout and migraines and hypertension and acne and PCOS and plantar fasciitis and you name the stuff. And again, not that all of those are caused by food, but a lot of them are. So you can choose which restriction you would prefer. Would you prefer to eat steak and salmon and flounder and Western omelets with onions and, ham and pepper and cheese and sausages and roasted broccoli and Brussels sprouts drizzled with balsamic vinegar and really good cheese and, I don't know, maybe the occasional handful of nuts, cashews and almonds and walnuts, and is that restricted? Would you prefer to be restricted in that way? Oh, I'm so restricted. I have to eat this New York strip steak with grilled cauliflower. Oh, woe is me. Poor, pitiful me. Would you rather be restricted that way? Or would you rather be restricted in the other ways? The medical problem ways, the pain ways, the fatigue ways, the mental health issue ways. It's not just physical. So, and of course, you've heard me mention in recent videos, keto has not magically cured my depression, so I'm not under any illusion that it's going to magically fix you if you have a mental health thing, but it certainly helps a lot of people. So, I guess that's it for now. Let me just check the 2 sentences of notes I do have. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel restricted. It took me a very long time to get to this point. And I've been eating this way for a long time, years and years and years. And it did take me a long time to sort of come to peace with this is just what I do. But I am very much at the point now where I do go to the supermarket and I don't even look at certain things. I don't long for them. I don't miss them. I don't crave them. Once in a while, I mean, I'll be completely honest, once in a while, I get a hankering for something and I either just power through or I indulge it. I have the thing and I move right back on. One little thing is not really that big a deal. In fact, I will put a link in the notes to a video I did. Actually, I don't know if I did a video on it. It's a blog post I wrote years ago on cheat meals on keto. Can you have them? What do they do? How do they fit in? Big topic. If I did a video, I'll link to it too, but I definitely did a blog post on it. But there's other stuff that used to be daily staples in my diet, things that I used to eat every day that I haven't eaten in 20 years. I mean, I'm a Jewish girl born and raised in New York. I haven't had a bagel in 15 years. What I've said, like that bagel I ate, what did I say, 10 years ago? Whenever I ate it, there's just stuff that I don't eat anymore and I don't miss it. But it did take me a long time to get here. That's the truth. But so let's sum up. Is keto restrictive? Yes. Is pretty much every other way of eating that has a name also restrictive in some other way? Yes. Is living life with lots and lots of medical problems and taking lots of medication for things we know keto is really good for in most people, is that restrictive? Yeah. So you choose which way you would like to be restricted in. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.